Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack and Taze. We are joined by a very special guest, professional hockey goaltender Ian Wallace. Ian just played in his first professional hockey season in the Federal Prospects Hockey League with most recently with the Port Huron Prowlers, but he also spent time with the Mississippi Seawolves, Binghamton Black Bears, and the Elmira Mammoth. And he is currently signed to Withville Pro Hockey for this season. He spent his college hockey days in NCAA Division III with Franklin Pierce University for 5 years, where his last 2 years he was also an assistant captain. So that's a pretty cool stat as a goalie. And then he also played junior hockey in the USPHL Premier, USPHL Elite, and the Met JHL. So I'm really excited to get Ian on. We were both at Vermilion's free agent camp, so it's good to catch up with him again. So welcome to the show, Ian Wallace.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to be on. Excited to talk to Jack again. We got to know each other a little bit in Vermilion, so excited to share my story here. So it should be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to get you on. And I love doing this and just talking to guys, and especially guys that I've met in the past, and just to see where they are now and just go through their career a little bit here. But to start things off, it's the off season currently. We're probably midway part of the off season right now ish.
Yeah,
So how's everything going with you?
doing well. Pretty much as usual for off seasons for me. I try to get on the ice as much as I can, and also in the gym as much as I can. Right now, I've toned back the skating since years past. I mean, I would gas myself
Yeah.
most years, so I would get on the ice like 6, 7 times a week. But I've toned it back a bit to like 4 or 5. So definitely get in the gym a little bit more. I got a gym in the house here, so I pretty much train every day. Take a couple days off a week just to let the body recover, and excited to get into the season. I know we still got a little ways to go here, but should be a good rest of the summer here.
Yeah, I'm just like you. I'm a workhorse, and I love being on the ice. But so this summer, I've definitely taken that less ice time, more time in the gym approach to it. Like you said, I was on the ice 5, 6, 7 days a week, like you were. Now maybe two to four throughout the week so far in this early in the off season. But it's definitely good to give yourself some time to recover, especially since in season you're practicing every day and your hips and everything go throughout that season.
Yeah, it's definitely smart to play it safe over the summer. I mean, you don't want to like just burn yourself out over the summer
Yeah.
because, like you said, you're going to be skating probably 6 times a week during the season. So I like to keep it at like 3 to 5 over the summer, and we have a pretty good group here. I'm from Long Island, so we have a pretty good group of pro guys and college junior guys that all come out, and we just pretty much run through some drills and scrimmage. So it's like good, like to kind of get some like reps as you would in an in-season practice, and then I try to get on with a goalie coach every once in a while too. So that's where I'm at right now, and
Yeah.
training wise, it's pretty much like I kind of veered away from. In the past, I would do a lot more heavy lifting and stuff like that, but now I'm kind of focusing more on speed, power, plyometrics, and stuff like that. And obviously, mobility and flexibility are huge for us as goalies.
Yeah.
So that's something I take pride in a lot. I try to get like 45 minutes of stretching in a day just to let the body recover and feel good. So it's definitely I'm really meticulous on how I train, and guys who played with me know that, and I'm sure they're probably laughing listening to me talk about it. So
So you're definitely staying dialed out there and just doing whatever you can to improve every single day, like we all are.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I want to go into your first year of professional hockey here, and I don't know, I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, but I would say from what it looks like, it was a wild year. So
Uh,
looking back on it, what was this year like for you?
it's definitely not the way I was expecting it to go, but it definitely gave me a lot of experience in like different situations and stuff like that, and I definitely had a lot of fun. Met a lot of different people along the way. So I mean, for people who don't know, I started out in Port Huron, and then I mean, I think it was like a couple months into the season, we had a lot of goalies rostered. We had Danik Rodrigue, Wyatt Hofflin, we had Richard Shipman, we had Joe Noonan, all at different times. So like it was kind of log jammed up there, but. So Matt Graham saw an opportunity to trade me down to Mississippi where I could get some more playing time, and I mean, I was happy at that moment just to get some more playing time and go down. And Mississippi, I was shocked with how great it was down there from the very start. I mean, the fans were great, the guys were great, the coaching staff, everything. Everyone took me in right away, which is very good for your first time getting traded because, like, obviously in college that doesn't happen. So you don't just walk into the rink one day and like be like, oh yeah, you got to pack your stuff up, move down to Mississippi. So it was a good experience to have such a good group of guys to go into and welcome me in down in Mississippi. But then ended up having two small stints with Binghamton and Elmira as well towards the end of the year, and then at the end of the year, ended up going back to Port Huron because they had some injuries and I was available, so I hopped right back onto it and jumped back in there and had a lot of fun along the way. So
Yeah, that's the most important part is that you're just having fun, even though like things may not have gone the way you were expecting. At least you're still out there having fun and you're playing the best game in the world.
yeah, definitely, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. So like if things just aren't going your way, maybe it's just not your spot. Like you just gotta get back on the horse, work hard, and try to work for another opportunity. And that's what I did. And I was fortunate enough to have that happen like 2, 3 times. So that's just the epitome of pro hockey, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to get into like your when you did get traded from Port Huron to Mississippi. Like you said, you everyone took you in very very well and right away. But like, what was it moving? What was it like moving from Michigan to Mississippi? Because that's two complete
Yeah.
opposite places to be.
I mean, the weather down there, first off, it's incredible where that arena is set up, like right on the beach down there. I don't know if you've probably seen pictures of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice down there. And then just walking out of the rink and it's sunny and 75 every day is kind of good too. So, and we had really good living down there. Joe Pace has got everything seemed to be figured out with living. I was in a house with a few other guys and it was really nice living. So, I mean, the move was kind of seamless. So like, um, when I did go down there, I mean, I got traded with one other guy, so that helped a little bit. So I already had like an understanding of like
Yeah.
at least one person on the team, and we were able to travel down there together. So that was good. But yeah, the guys they took me in right away, and I ended up going and meeting the team in Elmira from Port Huron because they were there that weekend, and I started the first game of the weekend and had a pretty good game. And after that, I felt really good with the team chemistry and all the guys down there. So it was good.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you find yourself going to the beach right after practice since you're right there?
I actually didn't go to the beach as much as I thought I would. I kind of have my routine going where I go to the gym after practice, but and then I'm usually like so tired that I just want to relax. But I did go down there a couple times. It's definitely a very nice area to play.
Yeah,
So
I love that. Like that's like what do you think of the no net behind the net? Because I've never seen that before.
that was something that I noticed when I went down with Port Huron to Mississippi to play against them. That was something we all noticed because in warm-ups they were ripping pucks off the crossbar and they were just flying up and we were like, if someone's hitting there, like that'd be interesting if it hits them. But it's definitely kind of dangerous. But I mean, I don't think there's been any injuries yet, so we'll pray that there's not any. Hopefully they could get a net up there
Yeah,
soon. So
yeah, absolutely. That would be huge to help so to make sure no one gets injured through that
yeah.
time. But then you went on to Binghamton and Elmira, and that's in New York. So like, what were those two teams like for you, and just getting used to the suitcase life?
Yeah, I mean, I got to go home. I After I got released by Mississippi, I came home for a few days, and then Brent Sherwood and Binghamton called me and said they were looking to bring in another guy. I went right back in my car and just went. I mean, that's not a far drive. I'm from Long Island, so it's like 4 hours to Binghamton, and I mean that facility in that area is really nice. So, and I went in and they welcomed me with open arms too, and especially Riley McVeigh there. We had some chemistry as goalie partners right away because he's such a great guy. So that definitely helped. So I loved it there too, and then going to Elmira, I had a few buddies on that team too, so I was able to know some people before going in, and that always helps too. So I don't have anything bad to say about anywhere I've played so far.
Yeah, always good when you know people there, and just makes like the transition more seamless, like you said before, and just makes it more worthwhile to just keep being in that like step that lifestyle where it's like you may get traded, you may get released, and just have guys throughout the league just to be a little more comfortable.
Yeah, especially when you get traded and you're on like multiple teams at that point. Like, there's always going to be someone
Yeah,
on a team that you played with that knows someone on the new team, so they could always just be like, "Oh, like I'll talk to him for you," and then you end up hitting it off when you get there. So it's always like the whole league is so closely knitted that like everyone kind of knows everyone. So it's definitely good.
yeah, absolutely. But like, what do you think was the biggest takeaways that you took away through your first year of professional hockey?
Definitely resiliency. You always gotta, be resilient in every situation because whether you have a bad game or if just things don't work out in a certain area, you just got to be able to, come back even stronger in the next spot you're in or the next game you play with that team, and then also just being a good teammate. Because like, if you're a good teammate, all the players in the league, the coaches in the league, they'll vouch for you, and then you'll end up getting on a different team. I think that really helped me from Port Huron to Mississippi to Binghamton to Elmira, and then ended up going back to Port Huron. I think because the guys like know I was a good teammate and that I wouldn't ruin the team chemistry
Yeah.
going into the final stretch of the season. So that's definitely one of the biggest takeaways from the first year of professional hockey for me.
Yeah, those are some great takeaways, especially since everywhere you go in pro hockey, you're like, you always hear be a good teammate, be a good character person, because no
Yeah,
one wants a cancer on their team or someone that's going to
yeah,
destroy the locker room.
yeah. Especially when like if you and another goalie or another player like are equal playing level, and then one of you has a good attitude, one of you has a bad attitude, odds are they're going to take the guy with the good attitude, even though they're similar in play. So always have a positive attitude, support your goalie partners, support your team, and then when you do get in the net, they're gonna have your back. So
Yeah, always support your teammates, support your goalie partner, because it's gonna make you and the team better, just because you have that good chemistry with the team, and it's just gonna help push each other and not be like, oh, this guy has a bad attitude and it's gonna destroy everything. Whereas you're just gonna keep getting better just by pushing each other.
yeah, definitely. I think if I had a bad attitude through that whole year, I don't think I end up back in on certain teams. So
Yeah.
that's just something that I've always tried to incorporate into my game through college, junior, and everything. So
Yeah, absolutely. But like throughout like the season, like you faced a ton of rubber throughout the year, especially in college, like you were talking about before. And I faced a lot of rubber as well this season. It's like, what is some advice to like the younger goalies who are getting peppered with shots and just just is like struggling with that aspect of it?
the one thing I could say is just always worry about the next shot. So
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how many come at you, as long as you're just worried about the next one, then there's really like there's not much to worry about other than that one shot. So that's what I go into a game. I'm not worried about if I see 20 or 30, 40 shots. It's just worry about that next shot, where it's coming from, and make sure you read the play good. And then you end up with like 50 and you won't even know. So like if you're just worried about the next one and you're not just counting like, oh, like they're peppering me tonight. So it's always important just to worry about that next shot, and everything will fall into place.
yeah, like that's one of the biggest things. Is like in my head, I just say one shot, one save, like next shot mentality, stuff like that, and probably say it 100, 200, 300 times during the game, but just gets you dialed and focused into that next shot.
Yeah, and that's how you got to do it, especially when you are getting peppered, because then you're not thinking about like two shots ahead, because that's when you get beat, is when you're
Yeah,
thinking like, okay, too far in the future. You just want to be in the present, focusing on what you can control. So that's my biggest takeaway from, facing a lot of shots or even a little shots,
yeah,
anything.
yeah. Just whatever it is to help you stay focused and stay dialed and stay on the next shot.
Definitely.
Yeah, but talking about a lot of shots, your first professional shutout came, I believe, you made 43 saves in, I
Water
believe,
zone, yeah.
yeah, in
Yeah.
Watertown. I believe you were on Port Huron as well during
Yeah.
that time. So, like, what was it like getting that first professional shutout?
That game I felt very in control. So that I feel like that's when you're at your best is when you're controlling the pace of the play. And because when you can control like rebounds and where you put the pucks and stuff like that, then it really helps with taking away like second chance opportunities. And that's when you get on a roll where you can just worry about that next shot. You don't have to worry about it sitting in front of you and then taking 4 or 5 whacks at it and then it end up going in the net. So just being able to control the pace of play and then like, you know, try not to look up at the shot counter every other whistle or whatever. Just kind of focus on the next shot and then, at the end of the day, if it ends up being 40, 50 shots, then just looks better on the stat sheet.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And like you just like you're a hard worker, so like you just continue to work hard. Good things are gonna happen, and when you get dialed like that, where you're focused on the next shot, and then 43 shots later, and buzzer sounds, and you get your first pro shutout, like there's no better feeling than that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anytime you get a shutout, I've never really had I don't have too many shutouts like in my career from like college, junior. I think I only had like had 3 shutouts in 5 years in college, which is for for 5 years, it's not a ton. So whenever you could get one, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're 5'10", I believe, right?
5'9".
Five
Yeah.
five nine.
My
So
college profile said 5'10". I don't know how I swung that, but yeah, I'm just about in the 5'8", 5'9" range. So
yeah, so like obviously, like you and I are both on the shorter end of the spectrum on the how tall a goalie should be. So like, what is some advice you'd give to younger goalies looking to get to that professional level, that next level, especially when they're 5'9", 5'10"?
so the biggest thing is try and be aggressive, but not too aggressive. You want to
Yeah,
have that kind of middle ground where you're not all the way out where they make one pass and you have to go all the way across the crease or whatever. So that's one thing. And then trying to hold your feet as long as you can. Try not to bite on shots because we don't have as long of legs where like if you do bite, you can just stick your leg out.
yeah,
And then, so you got to kind of hold your feet a little more and then also just being good on your edges. If you have good edge work and you're able to be quick to spots, then it's going to come a lot easier to you because obviously we have to travel further as smaller goalies. So you want to make sure that you can be as quick as possible. And that comes from doing edge work in practice and then also like getting in the gym, getting stronger and more powerful from like doing plyometrics and, weight training and stuff like that. So there's a lot that plays into it, but the biggest thing is be aggressive, but not too aggressive. Hold your feet and try to be good on your edges. So those are my big 3 keys to small goalies.
yeah. Especially the skating part, since we gotta be we gotta be quicker than the bigger guys to get over. Like the edge work, like you said, like it needs to be a step, 2 steps ahead of bigger guys, and like you just need to focus in and dial in on some of those, and then being aggressive, semi aggressive, not
Semi-aggressive, yeah.
totally aggressive, but like where you're able to get back if you have to, and
Yeah,
like
but
just
you want to
learn
be
your
able to cover the
strengths.
whole net. Yeah, you want to be
Yeah,
able to cover the whole net. Like if a puck does get where you can't see it and you go down, you want it to just hit your shoulder or like hit you in the chest or whatever. But if you're too far out, then they're just going to make that next pass and then you have no chance. So
yeah.
there's a middle ground there. And it's kind of difficult to figure out, but over the years I've kind of dialed it in there and tried to figure it out as much as I can. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's just all about just practicing and just knowing what, like, uh, especially in the summer now, like just try new things and try things that are going to help you for the season to get better and know where you should be and where you shouldn't be.
yeah, definitely. If you can get out into like a clinic where they just do like flow drills with a bunch of skaters and you can just play around with depth and like edge work and even your overlap when you're on the post, like those are big things that you can like play around with over the summer where you could kind of hone in your skills so that you're ready for the season for when those shots do come, and like you can, be in the right position without like being too far out of the net or out of the box is what they
Yeah.
say, like because you never want to be too overlapped or stuff like that because then you have so much more of a time to travel cross crease if something does happen. So
Yeah. Yeah. So you just gotta find that middle ground of everything, and before you get into like the basics and all that. But
definitely always, yep.
yeah. But before we get into like your college career here a little bit, like what were some of like your favorite places to play this year in the Fed?
I honestly I loved all four places I played. I can't really bash any of them. I mean, all the facilities that I played at, all the living situations I had, I didn't have a bad experience anywhere. So I mean, obviously you're gonna gravitate towards Mississippi because the weather down there is very nice,
Yeah.
and I mean they have a great fan base too down there, so it does help too. But I mean all the fans they're great, and it's nice to actually like play in front of people who actually want to be there and like not that wherever I played before, like, didn't. I
Yeah.
mean, just college is a whole different animal, especially Division 3, where we come from playing in front of like small student sections to big fan bases that like follow the team like more in depth. So it's definitely fun.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun for sure. But everyone has like their Fed moment, their Fed story where like it's their first couple games and you're like, wow, like this is professional hockey, like this is the Fed. It's like what's your Fed moment?
The first thing I can remember is probably my first start. I mean, I started against Motor City. It was the breast cancer game. I felt pretty good. We ended up losing the game, but it was definitely interesting stepping out onto the ice and just seeing all the fans in warm-ups and like then going into the game and it just being a whole different speed than college. And
Yeah.
you know there's just everyone's making crisp passes and there's not much room for error, so that was definitely, I mean, it's easy to say your first start, but it's usually like that's when you really realize like, okay, this is pro hockey, this isn't like college anymore.
Did you have the nerve? Did you have a lot of nerves getting to you throughout that game, or any jitters,
uh,
or were you just like it's another game?
I mean, you definitely have jitters going into the game, and
Yeah.
then once you settle into a couple shots, you just feel normal again. I mean, those first you just want to see a puck, a couple easy shots first,
Yeah.
and then you should be fine. So like, yeah, I went in with a little bit of jitters, but it's normal. And then I settled in pretty quickly, and I feel like I did pretty well. So
Yeah, just a shot from the blue line in your chest and you're all good.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I want to get into your college career here. So you played 5 years at Franklin Pierce University. So what was it like committing to Franklin Pierce, and how did you find it?
So it's a pretty interesting story actually. I was playing for the PAL Junior Islanders in the USPHL my last year of juniors, and I had a decent year there. Like in my age out year, I think I had like a 905 or something around that save percentage in like 30 games, and I didn't have any offers towards the end of the year, and then it was like a couple months after the season. I was still looking for a college to commit to, and I just started going on like the NCAA website and just finding schools that had graduating goalies without commits or with maybe even if they had commits, just seeing if I could maybe walk on somewhere. And I found Franklin Pierce had two senior goalies or one senior goalie or something like that. And I don't really remember, but I emailed the coach and he brought me in for a visit. And like a week later, I was committed. So it was definitely a pretty quick turnaround from when I contacted them, and then he brought me in. I showed him some game tape, some practice tape, and he loved me from the start. So it was definitely a good fit for me committing there, and it was a good feeling to get into an NCAA school because that's obviously everyone's goal coming out of junior.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely that's a good story to have, especially since like you didn't have any offers, but you didn't freak out and be like, oh, like I need to get somewhere. Like you did your research, and then you were an advocate for yourself, which I personally think's huge to be an advocate for yourself, especially in a situation like that where you want to get noticed and you want to play somewhere, and like just doing that, just by doing that, like it helps a coach be like, yeah, this guy wants to play, and this guy is going to do anything he can to play here and try to bring good things to the program.
Yeah, definitely. And then I went in my first year, and it was actually kind of a perfect situation because I had a senior goalie that year who had the prior year won goalie of the year in our conference. So he was a great guy to learn from. Tom McGuckin. He was played 4 years at Franklin Pierce. He was the record holder for most goalie categories when he left the school. And then he ended up going to Danbury in the Fed like 2 years. He went to Sweden for a year and then Danbury. Ended up winning goalie of the year in the Fed as well. So he was a great guy to learn from. And I played behind him in my first year and then kind of took the reins after that. So it was definitely good to learn from a veteran like that.
Yeah, it's like what do you learn from a guy like that, especially from going from juniors into the college? Like it's a completely different game.
Yeah. So the main thing for me wasn't even really like on the ice. It was how he like prepared himself for practice and how he took care of his body in the gym. And, on off days, he'd always be stretching and in the training room all the time. And he really took care of his body and he took it really seriously. And that was just something that I knew immediately when I went in. I was like, okay, I just got to follow along with his. And then obviously you could see how it translated to his game on the ice. So that's just it showed me that every little detail is important, and that's basically what I took from him.
Yeah, that's a good thing to take away, and like just especially in a situation like that, just be a sponge and absorb from guys who've played at that level, who won at that caliber goalie of the year, just to see what they do, not only on the ice, like you said, like off the ice, how he prepares and all that, just to get like a good sense of what it's like to compete at the NCAA Division III level.
Yeah, definitely. And then that pretty much set me up for like it set me up pretty good for the next, I guess, 4 years, you could say, one minus in COVID, where we played a
Yeah.
couple exhibition games. But I was able to play the majority of the games every year with great goalie partners too, who pushed me along the way. I had for pretty much my whole time, it was Kyle Martin and Adam Carmen, who were both smaller guys, just like me, 5'10" and under. So we were definitely the smallest goalie tandem in NCAA, I would imagine. But it was definitely fun to like have them. I just saw how hard they were working behind me, and they were earning starts, and it was fun to just compete with them, and then end up, just having success at the NCAA level was definitely a great plus.
Yeah, and just having guys like that, like underdogs like that, to help battle and compete for at practices, and just help you guys get better overall, like that, especially being 5'10" under, like those are that's what you need, because you guys are all the same height pretty much.
Yeah, it's definitely a grind, and going into my junior year, I think at the Christmas break, me and Kyle Martin were pretty much even with starts, and we were just battling with each other, just waiting for one of us to take the reins. So I mean, it could have swung either way, and then I ended up playing a lot towards the end of the year, and on a road to like playoffs where we ended up making the finals and losing. But it was definitely I wouldn't have been as prepared for that situation if I wasn't pushed by those two guys every day in practice and in games and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But you played your first year, you played your second year, where you went from 6 starts to 18 or 16, 6 games played to 18 games played. It's like, what do you think was the biggest jump from seeing a little bit of action to seeing a lot of action that second year?
It's definitely you gotta just prepare your body more. Just like I learned from Todd McGuckin, it's like you're playing, 1 to 3 games a week, depending on how the team does, how you do. So like you just gotta be more consistent, and that's definitely the biggest thing that you can do is just try and be as consistent as you can, and then you'll find success. So
Yeah, just being consistent and doing things over and over to help build like that foundation. And once you build that foundation, everything else pretty much comes into place with hard work and just being that consistent player and consistent guy to be doing the same things in the gym, just doing whatever you can to get better.
Yeah, definitely. And the gym plays a big part in it too, because I'm obviously a big proponent in the gym. And we would have team lifts all the time, and I would try to just be as dialed in as I could there, because I knew that it would translate great onto the ice. So I mean, you just gotta take everything with, just try and be as dialed in as you can in every aspect, whether it's stretching, working out, hand eye, on ice stuff and practice and stuff like that. It's always just try and be it as dialed in as you can at all times, and you'll find success when the stakes are higher.
Yeah, I love that. Whatever it takes. That's what it's all about.
Definitely.
But your third year, you had a career year where you played 21 games, went 10-8-3, 2.85 goals against average. Like, what was that third year like? Your junior year?
That was a really fun year. We had a pretty good team that year, so I don't want to take any of the credit there. We had a great group of guys, so it was definitely just fun to play behind them. Where like you know, we had like the good defensemen and good forwards where we were getting goals so that we could, didn't have to be as tight towards the end of the games. But it was definitely like I just felt like I got on a roll towards second semester where I was just like seeing the puck really well, and like I just like felt really good with my game, and it translated into some good success where I ended up playing a lot down the stretch and into playoffs. So it was, but just like anything, it could have gone either way, and I'm just happy in the way things turned out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, what were playoffs like during that year, especially since like you guys were like a struggling, I wouldn't say struggling, but like a struggling team your first 2 years, then you guys really put together a good year your third year and go into playoffs. Like, what was that like?
We just took the underdog mentality every game. I mean, we snuck into playoffs towards the last, I think it was the last like weekend or two of the regular season. We snuck into the 4 seed. So in our conference, 4 teams make the playoffs. We do a semifinal final, and we had to play the 1 seed. And um, at the time, like they were obviously heavy favorites going into the game. We were just going in with nothing to lose. We had already That was the second time in program history I think the team even made the playoffs. So like it was like at that point it was a win in any books, and but obviously we wanted more and to go for the championship, and we ended up winning the semis in overtime, and that was a pretty exciting game. And then we went into the finals and ended up losing 3-1, but it was definitely a fun game, good game, and one that could have went either way as well. So
Yeah, especially in games like that where it could go either way. Like it's obviously a bittersweet feeling when that does happen, but you learn a lot from those experiences and just knowing what it takes, especially with that underdog approach and knowing what it's like to be that underdog. Then you spend your next 2 years as an assistant captain at Franklin Pierce, where you played 3 games your senior year, and then that fifth year you played 15 games. So, like, what were those last 2 years like, especially being an assistant captain?
it was, first of all, it was really interesting senior year from COVID, because that was
Yeah.
like
Oh
the
yeah,
the
that
year
that
that
was
pretty
that
much
time. Yeah.
everything, that was when everything got shut down. We were able to play 6 games, I think we got in. So I got in
Ouch.
3 of them. So I mean, that was as much as we could get. We were still able to practice, but we got shut down a lot for like weeks at a time, just
Yeah.
because people would test positive and stuff like that. We were getting tested like 3 times a week, but that was definitely interesting. So, and I mean, having that be my first year as an assistant captain was definitely an interesting thing, because you got to navigate this whole new world, COVID, where you got to control guys more from, going out on the weekends and
Yeah.
like, having big
Living
gatherings,
the
because
normal college lifestyle.
yeah, we had to pretty much cut a lot of things off during that time, because we were getting tested 3 times a week, and we couldn't afford to have one positive, because that would shut us down for 10 days to 2 weeks at a time. And then games that we would have scheduled, which were just exhibition games, would get canceled and stuff like that. So it was kind of trial by fire to be in a leadership role at that time. And I'm sure the two other guys, our captain and then our other assistant captain, who I lived with, could definitely tell you the same thing, because it was definitely tough to navigate being a leader of a team that just, wants to live a regular college life, but it's, a completely different time in history where we couldn't really do much. So
Yeah.
that was definitely interesting. But then with that year pretty much getting canceled, the NCAA gave us another year of eligibility, and I just hopped on, getting in another year, and helped me get a master's degree too. So that's definitely a plus as well. So, and my two roommates who were also captains with me ended up coming back too. We were the only three seniors on the team that year. So all three of us came back, and we pretty much just made one more run at it for our grad year. So it was definitely it's different being a goalie and being a captain, because obviously, you can't leave the crease, and
Yeah.
you can't go talk to the refs unless they're by the net. So like it's definitely a lot different, but that's where like the other guys would take that role, and then I would take different roles. I was more of like a lead by example kind of guy, leading the weight room, because that's where I strived. And then as a goalie, like I'm not a big vocal guy in the locker room. I like to just especially when you're playing in the net, you want to be dialed in. So it's definitely a different perspective to be a leader in that sense. So, but it was fun time, and I think I did a pretty sufficient job as a leader. So it was definitely a new experience, but it was fun.
Yeah, when the NCAA granted like the fifth year, were you like absolutely yes, and like, or did
I
you have to like
was
consider it?
No, I told my coach before they even like I went up to him. I was like, if they give us another year, I'm coming back like 100%. Like I didn't even wait until they like NCAA told us that we could. So he knew once the NCAA was giving the extra year that I would be back. So, and I think it really helped me like get another year of experience under my belt before, because I always wanted to go pro. So, and that gave me another year to prepare for that, so it was a good year.
Yeah, it was a great experience to like, especially in the leadership role where, like you said, like you're a lead by example guy, especially when you're playing, you want to be dialed in, all that, and just leading by example. Where it's like you're preparing the right way, you're in the gym, like teaching the guys like what you need to do to compete at this level. So it's all good, like good experience, and like a lot to learn from that experience as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what like when I was like in my grad year, I wanted to kind of be like that guy, like Tom McGuckin was to me, where like even if it's not teaching other goalies, and we did have a freshman goalie that year, but like even if it's just teaching anyone, just like what it takes to be successful at that level, and what you have to do on an everyday basis to find success. And I mean, even not saying that like you have to do exactly what I do every day just to be successful. I
Yeah.
mean, there's plenty of different ways you can do it, but just to have me as an example, and pick things from what I do, pick things from what other older guys do, and that's just kind of the role I wanted to play on the team, and just kind of set the program up for success in the coming years with the younger guys coming up, because it was definitely a young team that year. Because after we made the finals my junior year, we had like I think it was like 12 or 13 people graduate. So it's definitely the time where we had to teach the younger kids. It's kind of the ropes. So it was interesting. So it was, yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, that's huge, especially when like you graduate a lot of, and it's becoming a younger team. Like you need to have guys like you and your other captains to lead the way and set the program up for success the next few years. Then they can teach the next gen coming up, and yeah, so you guys can have a lot of success in years coming.
Yeah, that's how colleges stay successful. You gotta,
Yeah.
the older guys gotta hold the younger guys accountable, and then that's how the programs keep expanding. So I'm glad I got to do what I got to do in the 5 years I ended up playing college. So it was definitely fun.
Yeah, exactly. But throughout your time at college, like you had unreal set of pads with especially the iceberg one, like, and you're still rocking those this past season. So like what made you go with the iceberg pad?
So I had the pulses my junior year, and that was my first one where I got in pretty much a new pair every year. Um, I had it was the same exact pad every year, but I had the pulses and I really liked the maroon base and I wanted to kind of like stick with that like kind of design, but kind of like pay homage to like the area because we were in New Hampshire and on our campus you can see a mountain called Mount Monadnock like from like the parking lot. So like it was kind of like a no-brainer to go with the mountain graphic and just kind of do that with the next set, and I ended up using that for my grad year, and I just finished my first year pro with those maroon pads that didn't match any team in the Fed, but it was definitely I definitely had fun making my setups over the year, and I've worked with Everett from Vaughan for the past I don't know 3 4 years, and he's been a great help to getting me exactly what I want every time. So that's definitely a plus when you have someone helping you along the way.
Yeah, I remember seeing those pads in VC, and I was like, those are some sick pads, and just to see it in person, like
Yeah.
those are incredibly done, and hey, it's all about the style, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I just got a new setup for this coming year. We kept it more neutral with just like white and stuff like that, but it's definitely fun. As a goalie, that's all you want to do is make pads and get exactly what you want. And
Oh yeah.
Vaughn's allowed me to do that over the years, so it's definitely been fun because I'm a guy that doesn't like to change stuff. So I on my fifth pair of the exact model pad, exact model glove, and they're from like 2017. So like you can't even buy them in the store anymore. Like I have to go through the rep if I want to
Yeah.
get what I want. So it's definitely a plus having Everett from Vaughn helping me out over the past couple years.
It's always good to have those hookups, and just to have guys like that. It's gonna get you the same model every year, even when it's out of stock.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I want to jump into your junior and youth hockey career a little bit here. So you're from West Islip, New York, in Long Island there. So like, what was it like growing up over in Long Island in New York there?
It was definitely good. I mean I stayed on Long Island until I went to college, so I definitely the hockey level here it continues to grow every year. And I played primarily with the PAL Junior Islanders growing up, and then I moved over to like the Long Island Rebels slash Royals organization. So bounced around a little bit, but all the youth organizations are great over here, and I mean, we seem to be getting better every year, producing better and better players. So it was definitely a good experience. And then I ended up playing juniors for three different organizations. I played for the Long Island Royals junior team. That was supposed to be my first year of 18s, but I went right up to junior, and then went back to 18s the next year. And then my 2 years out of high school, I played for Apple Corps in New York, and then which is in like Long Beach area, and then I finished out where I started youth hockey with the PAL Junior Islanders, which was great because I got to play in the rink I grew up playing, and so it was definitely a fun experience. And I mean, all the organizations treated me really well here, and it's Long Island hockey is kind of on the rise here, especially with the guys that I see here over the summer. Like we do have a lot of older guys that come to our skates over the summer, but it's starting to get more and more to the younger guys. And there's some good guys that are most likely getting drafted in the next couple of years. A lot of D1, like younger guys. It makes me feel old now that they're all like 05s and 06s, but I think you got to deal with it. At least I get to still play at this age, and that's all I could ask for. So,
Yeah, and like you're just seeing like the next generation develop and have just go through like the things you did when you're that age, and then just to go through just to be there and experience like those things through college, through juniors, through even pro now. Like you're able to give them advice, give them tips, and just give back to that next generation.
yeah, definitely. I always have, occasionally the younger guys asking me questions about, junior camps and stuff like that. And it's nice to give them some advice. But obviously, like, I think the guys I stay with are going to be way better than I was. So I don't know why they're asking for advice from me, but it's definitely, it's fun to play, even though they're so young, just to have that competition be so even playing field with me right now it's fun. And we still do have a handful of older guys, pro guys at our skates, whether it's, AHL, Coast, SP guys, just, here, and then a couple guys overseas. So, like, It's a good group of mixture of older, younger, college, junior guys, and it's a lot of fun. We go out there 3 times a week, so it's always good to get better with all the good players around here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that, and I want to get into like that year that you're saying where you went to Long Island Royals in the Met J, and then you went back to 18U that following year. It's like what was the biggest difference from like going from the Met J to 18U to going back to the Met J the following year, and just getting that more like experience, more development in you before fully stepping in that junior hockey realm?
Yeah, definitely. So foregoing my first year of 18s, going right to the junior league was definitely it was a different experience. I didn't play as much as I would have wanted to, and I knew that was not good for development. So, I mean, I felt good at that level, and I knew I'd have success at that level. But I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to go back to 18s, get a lot of games in, get a lot of shots on me, and get reps in practice. So like then going into that next year, it was kind of seamless to where I could play like every game and feel good every game and not feel like the speed was too much. Because I mean, the first year I played, I was 16 going on 17, and then when I'm back in the Met JHL, it was I think I was like 18, 19. So it was definitely it was better to have that experience from before, but then be able to kind of run with it after.
Yeah, and it's like you know what to expect, but you needed that little extra experience to get you where you wanted to be, and then you jump in and you know what to expect, and you know the pace of the game, the pace of the league, and you're just able to gain like use everything you gained throughout the year before to play at that and have success at that level.
Yeah, definitely, and that set me up for good success for my age out year, where I eventually moved back to the PAL Junior Islanders, and I played. I started out on the premier team, and this was before the whole NCDC thing was a thing. I think they started that my freshman year of college, but the top two divisions in the USPHL were Premier and Elite. I got to start with the Premier team, and then we went through a couple of goalies there. I got a couple starts, and then I moved down to the Elite team where I could get like a lot of playing time and still earn a Division 3 commit because there was a lot of guys committing out of that league. So I knew like at that point it was a good opportunity for me to go down to the Elite team and just play a lot, and then try to work for a commitment, which I ended up getting, which was great for my development. And that, I mean, kind of it all came full circle with me getting into an NCAA school because that's always just what I wanted to do. So, I mean, I feel like I took a good path, but it definitely took a lot of hard work over the years to
Yeah.
get to where I am today, pretty much.
Yeah, and I want to get into like when you did go from USP Elite to Premier, like the term like get sent down. Like, did that ever bother you, or were you just like, I'm gonna get an opportunity to play, and that's really all I want?
So it was a pretty interesting story because I was originally signed over the summer for the Elite team, and then going into camp they signed whatever goalie they signed was like hurt at the beginning of the year, and I was like, we just had one big camp between the two teams, and I did well enough to earn a spot on the premier team to start the year, and I ended up starting the first game of the year too because I did so well in camp, which I mean, looking back, I mean, that was pretty good accomplishment for me, like being kind of the underdog, and that's where I kind of
Yeah,
get that mentality from, just hard work and just making the team at a camp. And then, a couple of games in, it just wasn't going how I planned it, or not that even like I planned it like that. They went in a different direction. But I went down, and um, I knew when I went down, I would get a lot of playing time, and I got to play with a great group of guys too. So it was definitely I definitely didn't. I didn't. I mean, obviously I wanted to stay up, but like
yeah,
it definitely didn't hurt my ego going down or anything like that. It was I just wanted to play pretty much. So
yeah. You're just getting the time and getting the games, and that every goalie wants to play as many games as they can. Just being able to do that and play what 26 games, whatever you did that year, just it also helps development as well as potentially getting up to that next level, that next year, going into college and committing to D3 and then eventually going pro.
Yeah, definitely, and that's some advice that I have for especially younger goalies. Like, there's no sense staying on, especially if you're towards the end of your junior career. There's no
Yeah.
sense staying on the top team just for the title if you're not going to play, because then
Yeah.
you could go down and play every game, and those coaches, I mean, they'll still look at you, and they'll still like you'll still have an opportunity to get a commitment. You always just want to play games, and that's just one thing that like I would give advice to people is just like if you aren't playing and you don't think you're going to play, it just might not be a bad opportunity just to go down,
Yeah.
even if it's for a couple games, just to get some games in. Maybe you could find yourself back up, but it's most important to try to get as many games as you can, especially at that age when you're really working towards a commitment. It's really important just to get games in.
Yeah, and like it honestly really doesn't matter the league or anything. If you're gonna go in, play games, like dominate at that level, people will notice you, and coaches will be calling you and stuff like that. You just gotta go in and dominate that level.
Yeah, definitely. And at that point in my junior career, it's not like I was going to be a top prospect going into like a
Yeah,
hockey school or anything. So like me playing premier down to elite, it really wasn't like a big deal because I knew I could still get to where I wanted to be, which was just getting into an NCAA D3 school. And that was why I just ultimately like wasn't too upset with getting that playing time moving down to the lower team. So
yeah, absolutely. But before we get into the Instagram Q&A that I put up, I have one last question, and I forgot to ask this earlier, but we met at Vermilion County Bobcats free agent camp. What do you think of that camp, and what you learn from the camp at the SPHL level?
Oh, that was definitely interesting because that was the only free agent camp I did last year. So it was definitely interesting to see how, some of the older guys going into that camp just carried themselves, and that
Yeah,
it's definitely, even though you don't make the team, it's nice just to see how like get a little glimpse before, you go into like a real camp, even though I went into a Fed camp because even though it's like technically a lower level, it's still nice to have that little experience to know what it takes every day to be successful. And I thought that camp was really well set up for that.
yeah, I agree with that. Like you just learn from like the older guys, like you said, like they weren't taking it easy. Like they're ripping shots on us, just going about how they would in like a regular season or a main camp to compete and play at for that team. So it's definitely interesting to see. And so it's always nice as well, like when you're competing with them and you're actually battling and you're making saves and you can play at that level. It's just about a matter of getting an opportunity.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is getting that opportunity
Yeah.
because especially in the SPHL and the Fed, there's only so many teams, which means there's only so many goalies. So it's when you do find that opportunity, you kind of got to run with it. So that definitely taught me a lot there too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember we're playing bags during the off ice activities. Those were fun as well.
Yeah, definitely good to get off the ice a little bit and kind of refresh the mind, refresh the body a little bit. So yeah, that was definitely a fun time.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's jump into the Instagram Q&A really quick here before we wrap things up here. So start with this favorite NHL team. I think I know this
Nice.
answer.
You could see the
Yeah.
jerseys behind me. There's probably a couple more around me too. Yeah, there's probably like 4 or 5 more. New York Islanders. I'm a Long Island kid. My parents were Islander fans growing up, so I'm an Islander fan. So that's pretty self-explanatory from the jerseys behind me.
Yeah, yeah, I could tell right away, but that's hilarious. But next one is why do you choose to be a goalie?
So it's an interesting story. So I'm actually a twin, and my brother also plays hockey, and we both started when we were 4 years old, I think. And then I was just a player at first, and then the Might League or whatever that we were playing in needed a goalie, and it was free at the time. So my dad was like, "Which one of you wants to play goalie?" And I was like, "I'll try it." And then And, obviously, as the years go on, it's a lot more money
Yeah.
to play goalie, but that's kind of how it started. My dad just asked me and my brother if any of us wanted, either of us wanted to try it, and I hopped on the opportunity, didn't look back. I loved it. So
Yeah. Best position out there.
definitely a little
Uh,
pricey, but
yeah. But other than that, best position out there.
definitely
Next question is have you had any cool or crazy saves?
crazy saves. College, I had one that went like got on a couple Instagram pages. I kind of just stuck my glove back and just got it, and that was pretty cool. I think it got on like a couple like Instagram pages with a decent amount of followers. So, but I did get Michigan on the year before, so I did go viral for that.
Yeah.
So,
Always bad, always not a good look when you go viral for the
yeah,
wrong reason, especially getting
yeah,
the Michigan scored on you.
yeah. But when you could come back with a good save, it'll hopefully make people forget about it. But you
But
know,
it doesn't. Yeah.
no, it doesn't.
Next one is who was your inspiration to be a hockey player?
Inspiration to be a hockey player. Pretty much just my dad. I mean, he never played hockey growing up, but he like played men's league when he got older, and then he was obviously a huge Islander fan with my mom too. So like they like when me and my brother were like 3, they put us on rollerblades, and we just like that pretty much just. I mean, I can't remember back then, but like that's pretty much how it went down. I don't think I had any inspirations that young that I could remember of other than my dad and my mom, and then just having a twin brother to compete with every day was
Yeah.
just the icing on the cake there.
Yeah, that's awesome right there. And then the next question, I have two more. And what are some of your thoughts with the changes in the FPHL?
I think the league's heading in the right direction. I mean, adding teams every year, it seems like these fan bases in these areas want teams, and that's always good to grow the game. Also opens up opportunities for more players to get either more playing time or get onto teams, and it's definitely a plus. So I like where the league's headed, and I think the league's been doing great over the past couple years. It's kind of gone away from more of the where it's just known as like a fighting league to more
Yeah.
like getting younger and getting more skilled, and it's always good to see that with the college guys coming up and the junior guys coming up, and then still having those veteran presences on every team. So it's definitely, I think it's heading in the right direction. I like the where it's heading.
Yeah, and like I'm looking at all these signings this year, and I think this may be one of the best teams or the best like skill wise and talent wise the league has had in a while, especially coming into this season.
Yeah, it should be fun going into this year. I'm really excited to get going in Withville. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I have two more questions from the same person, and it's your old Black Bears teammate, Fitzy, Colin Fitzgerald, and he wanted me to ask about the Whitney Point Apartments. Like what?
um,
How is that?
they're definitely interesting. It's definitely on the older side, but it was a decent place to live. I mean, a lot of people complained about it, but I mean, I didn't see like too much of an issue. I mean, it was livable, but it was definitely they was like an old cabin type of feel. It was interesting, but it was good.
There we go. And then the second part to that question he has is how you would beat Brant Sherwood to their coach to the rink every day, and that you're the first one ripping a full lift before practice.
Oh yeah, I like to get to the rink pretty early, and that happens on every team I get on. I mean, it just so happened that Jersey on bingo, he had the only key to the rink, so I would have to wait for him. I usually get there around like 2.5 hours before practice, just because I get up early anyway, so I like to get there, either get a lift, bike, stretch in, I pretty much do the same warm up before practices and games. So, um, yeah, it was definitely interesting. Jersey was definitely kind of shocked when I would be there pretty early, and then I would just pretty much stay there all day too, because that facility is unbelievable. So
Yeah.
having the gym right there was just like I was just in heaven, just being able to work out after practice and just hanging out. it was fun, but it was definitely, yeah, Sherwood. He was kind of shocked and at the beginning, as were the rest of the guys. But
Were you out there ripping like dynamic warm up when Shurzy would get there and he'd just be like, what is going on? Well, like, what are you doing?
yeah, I mean, sometimes I'd have to wait for him to get like into the actual like the players entrance, but sometimes I'd try to like sneak around and like get into like the main concourse and then just go in the locker room if the like facility guys were there. And there was times where he would just walk in, I'd just be on a bike or something or just stretching. So he thought it was hilarious.
That's unreal. But I think that's a great place to wrap this up here. But Wally, thank you again for coming on the show. I
Oh,
really appreciate your time, and I want to wish you the best of luck going forward
yeah,
with this
thank you.
season.
Good luck to you too. I mean, it's a pleasure being on here. I'm excited for the year. It should be a good one.
Yeah, hopefully we either play against each other or maybe potentially even be teammates. That'd be
Yeah,
unreal.
definitely. That would be fun. Yeah. I should see plenty of you at some point. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be fun.
definitely.